Hi, my name is Reagan Mickey, and this is my story. Growing up, my family didn't really have a strong religious background. A lot of my family practiced Judaism, and some of them didn't even believe in God. But my immediate family, we mostly went to church for Easter and Christmas. So I never really had a true understanding of who God was. I just kind of knew of him as kind of the holidays, I would say. I associated him with presents and gifts. When I was going to about 4th or 5th grade, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and I didn't really know exactly what that meant when I was that young. I kind of just associated it with the cold or something like that. I started to watch my mom sort of deteriorate physically, but mentally her health was so strong. Her heart had grown so bold in love and faith. It was insane. At that age, I didn't really understand that as well. I kind of just watched it happen from a distance and didn't really understand what was happening. It wasn't until June 19th, 2013, when she passed away, that everything really changed for me. I started to look at the world in a completely different way. It started off with me absolutely hating God. I resented everything about him. I hated the fact that he had taken my mom away from me, a girl about to be 13 years old, a girl that was about to enter the world of whirlwind and craziness, almost alone without anyone to look up to. And I didn't really know where I stood in that. I went through a really strong identity crisis where I was kind of stuck with not knowing who I was, both at home and at school with my friends. I was identifying as my friends and not myself. I had completely lost myself, and I'd completely lost faith in a lot of things. During that time of my mom passing away and going through the grieving process and preparing for the funeral, Orchard Hills community came around my family, and they loved us more than anyone else had loved us before. They brought so much light into the darkness. They poured into my brother and I, and they stood alongside us and helped us through it. And that was the one thing that really started to spark my curiosity. My mom had started coming to this church, hoping and praying and being with God and building such a strong relationship, and I had just kind of watched it from the sidelines. And I wanted to know why a God would give her cancer and take her away from me, but yet she could love him so much and put all of her hope and trust in him. And that was what really drove me to start looking into God and start growing my faith with God. Through the community that we started to build here at Orchard Hill, I knew that this is where I was supposed to come back to. Not only was it a place that my mom found as home, but it was a place that I started to be able to call my home. From that point on, I started to love God and started to learn about God. There was no exact point in my life where I was like, this is it, I'm all in. It was more of a gradual process and very shaky and rocky, but I learned a lot through it. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about my mom, and I learned a lot about God. I would say that my biggest takeaway is that sometimes you're gonna hit rock bottom, and you're gonna be at the places that you've never wanted to be, and it's all God's plan. Without that moment in my life, I would not have a faith. I would have been still struggling from the sidelines, watching my mom grow in her faith and watching other people grow in their faith, but I know that I wouldn't have a faith. I wouldn't have had the desire to know why. I wouldn't have the desire to want to know more. So God's plans are always the best for you, even though they might not feel like they are in the moment. Looking back on it, as much as that was the worst moment of my life, it also gave me life. My name is Reagan Mickey, and this is my story.